I was like, okay, God, I feel like the Sabbath year is a thing. And of course, I did some quick math, and guess how long I've been doing this author thing? 6 years. Okay, this is a Sabbath year. Once again, the question, what does that mean? Obviously, I'm not a Jewish farmer. I don't have
Right.
fields to plant or harvest. But I do feel like, and we've talked about this before, when you're kind of co-creating with God, this message isn't my message. These words aren't my words. This fruit that I'm producing, this harvest, it's a gift from Him that I am to steward well. And as His steward this year, He is telling me that I'm not supposed to be reaping any benefits from it.
So how about you start by explaining how you're going to create from rest this year?
Okay. Well, I'll start with how this whole thing started.
Yeah.
Um, as I was thinking of a word for the year, because every year I pick a word, last year was collaborate. So for me, I'm very logical. Usually, if someone asks me to do something, I'm looking at the to-do list. Can it fit? Blah, blah, blah. And so I don't have trouble saying no to people. So the whole thing last year was the answer is going to be yes. If someone asks me, the answer is yes. We're going to collaborate. I'm going to do the thing. And it was a huge year. I published 3 books. I started a podcast. I signed with an agent. I did all the things.
They all came up all at
Oh
once.
my gosh, yeah. It was like dozens of guest posts and podcast interviews. And I think I had 14 in-person events, like author events, that's more than one per month. And I have 3 little kids. It was a lot. And as I was getting to the end of the year and thinking about what I want this word to be, I was just so tired. I was really, really tired. And what kept coming up was rest. Stop, actually, was the word that kept coming up. Not rest, but stop. And for me, I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm an achiever. So stop is not in my vocabulary.
No, I was going to say that doesn't come
not
naturally to you, huh?
I mean, even rest is like, okay, what do I do with rest?
Yeah.
But stop is foreign language. I mean,
And stop's different than no, right? Like you're okay saying
yes,
no, but to actually stop
to
is a
stop.
little bit different for you.
Right. Because stop is not saying no to someone else, but it's saying no to myself. Because here's the thing, my boss was working me to the bone. But yes, I'm self-employed.
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to put the brakes on. So it was just, okay, God, what do I do with stop? I can't stop. And it
Right.
was, yes,
Yeah.
you can. You can stop. All you have to do is stop. And so, as I
It's
was
funny,
kind of,
like, because he gives you that, like, you need to stop. But then the question is, well, what does that actually look like? Like,
yeah,
what does it mean to stop? Like, stop everything? Stop, like, what exactly? And so sometimes I think God gives us things and we have to wrestle out what exactly He's asking us to do. It's that whole, like, working out your salvation kind of thing.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so where did you go
Absolutely.
from there?
So from there, I was kind of reading through my Bible. And of course, thinking about this idea of rest, I thought of the scriptures about Sabbath. And so, of course, we know the do all of your work in 6 days, and on the 7th day, you rest.
Right.
But right before that are some verses about a Sabbath year, where for 6 years you do all of your work. And then on the 7th year, you don't plant or harvest anything from your fields. And I was like, okay, God, I feel like the Sabbath year is a thing. And of course, I did some quick math, and guess how long I've been doing this author thing? 6 years.
6 years. Amazing. How does that work?
Are you trying to talk to me here? So it's like, okay, this is a Sabbath year. Once again, the question, what does that mean? Obviously, I'm not a Jewish farmer. I don't have
Right.
fields to plant or harvest. But I do feel like, and we've talked about this before, when you're kind of co-creating with God, this message isn't my message. These words aren't my words. This fruit that I'm producing, this harvest, it's a gift from Him that I am to steward well. And as His steward this year, He is telling me that I'm not supposed to be reaping any benefits from it,
Mhm.
similar to the Jewish idea in the Bible.
And
Um,
not just reaping benefits, but not putting anything intentional, like planting any new things.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Not putting anything um, into new things that you expect to get anything from. It's
Yeah.
this idea of needing compensation for our work,
Mhm.
and separating that out and seeing that I can trust God for the
Mhm.
compensation, and that compensation might not be anything that I can touch or feel or quantify, and that's okay.
Right.
Um,
Now, you and I
so
did
yeah,
talk about how you are in a position where you're not the breadwinner per se, in your family.
absolutely.
And so,
Yes.
like, what God's asking you to do might be different from what he might ask somebody else who, like a guy who, or like your husband in this case, like who is
Yeah.
the breadwinner in your family.
Yeah.
And to stop for him is not going to be like, stop providing for your family. Like, that's not going to happen. Right. But
Right.
it might look a little bit different. And so, we did talk about that because you're like, I don't have to receive any money from my books to provide a roof over my head. So that's
Right.
going to look a little bit different. Um, but where you landed was, I don't need to expect any compensation for the work that I'm doing right now, not in this
Right.
year.
Right. Not in this year. So the practical things that have come out of that are pricing down all the books on all the online retailers. So of course they still take their thing. I can't make them absolutely free, which would be
Right.
wonderful, but can't do that. And then there's printing costs and things like that. But all of the prices that are out there, that's like at cost for me. Um, I shut down my Etsy, my website, um, even like my Amazon, affiliate links, like all
Yeah.
of you don't even realize
Oh, go
all
ahead.
the things until you start going through and
Oh
like,
my gosh, that's right. Like, you
doing
having to
this.
remember where everything is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's interesting to me because you've mentioned this that you're going to do this, and I've been wondering about this. So how did you come to that conclusion that you needed to um like price everything down? Because when you were talking about that scripture, what came to my mind is that God is telling them just live off of what naturally springs up. So there would
mhm,
still be kind of
mhm.
like a harvest. There would still be like a profit if we're going
Yeah.
to like really translate this. But for you, you decided to like price it down. So how did you come to that conclusion that that's what was being asked of you?
Yeah. So there's two different verses, and they do kind of say it a little bit differently, which means it
Okay.
is open to interpretation. So one is in Leviticus, then there's one in Exodus 23. The one in Exodus 23 says that like any of the poor can come to your fields and eat whatever they want. The wild animals can have the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And that was more for me. I was seeing that as, whoever wants to come and take can come and take.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the one in Leviticus is more of whatever springs up of on its own, you can eat from for your family. But once again, I am not the breadwinner.
Yeah.
So I don't need this to feed my family.
Mhm.
Um,
So you saw
and
the one in Exodus more applying to your situation than the one in Leviticus.
I
I think
do.
I think that's an
Yeah.
important distinction because maybe somebody who's listening to this and wrestling with what does that mean for them if they were to take something like a Sabbath year. And we'll talk in a little bit about like what I'm doing because what I'm doing is complete opposite from what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but like for somebody who is taking maybe wants to kind of pull back a little bit, stop a little bit, they might not, they might not be able to put their books at for cost, right? They might still
Right.
need to make a profit. And I think there is something, um, you know, kind of comforting that God cares for both the poor and for us. Like he doesn't want
Yeah.
us to starve for the sake of serving our neighbor who maybe can't afford it, right? Like
Right.
he's not going to have you go destitute in serving and loving and caring for somebody who's not as fortunate. And so
Yeah.
I think there is something comforting in that thought. And especially as creatives, the whole starving artist thing is kind of a perpetuated like stereotype. And I think that's because we want to create for the sake of art or create because we're co-creating with God, and there's always this tension, I feel like, between, like, business and profit and art, and is it ministry, and all these questions, and I think when we start talking through these concepts of, like, allowing God to produce and provide for us, it kinda puts it into a right perspective, like, God does
Yeah.
provide for us, he cares about us, and I think evaluating our individual situations like you did, where you're like, "This is not I don't need to provide for my family off of this. I need to be generous with it." And so,
Yeah.
I think that's a really important distinction, and I'm glad that we were able to kinda go there a little bit in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, and another question that I got too, was a friend of mine. She's business minded and she is like trying to talk me out of the Sabbath year so much. And one of the things she said was, well, okay, if you price down your books, you are devaluing the message,
Mhm.
right? Because, there's this perceived value and the price you put it at and all this. And so you shouldn't do that because then you're pricing down your message or whatever. I don't know, whatever.
I get what she's saying because there's, like
Yeah,
when you have things on sale all the time, like, we always joke about Kohl's, we're like, Kohl's always has a sale going on, but that's because they jack up their prices, right? Like, or
exactly.
Hobby Lobby, like, something's always on sale. So
Right.
you're like, come to expect it to always be on sale, and you're like, if it's not on sale, you're like, "Oh, what?" Like, you're
I would
kinda
never buy
upset
it.
at it, right?
Yep.
And so it's kind of a weird mentality. So I get what she's saying because 'cause you're like, you don't wanna get your readers into that, like, or your customers, you don't wanna get your customers
Right.
into that expectation of, like, but I think that's a little bit different than what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, and so her idea was keep them all priced high, or not high, but they're regular prices, and then donate all the profits to charity. And so then you're still giving to the poor, you're doing all the thing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, I'm an achiever
Mhm.
and I know why I'm in this mess.
Yeah.
I'm in this mess because I am keeping track. I am checking boxes. I am looking at the numbers. I am staking my self esteem on these numbers, my value on these numbers.
Yeah.
And that is not healthy.
And it's not stewardship.
It's not stewardship.
Right.
And if I did go that route, I know me, and it would be all about how much can I, quote, raise for charity, right?
Yep.
And then it's still about the numbers. It's still about hitting a goal. It's still about reporting at
Mhm.
the end of the year to, I don't know, the invisible audience that we raised X number of dollars
Yeah.
for charity this year, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing, I am not keeping track. I'm
Right.
not. I am not looking at the numbers this year. I don't know right now in this moment how many books have sold or not sold in January so far, because I'm not looking. And
Mhm.
that's, I feel like, the only cold turkey way for me to um, really, I feel like I'm in rehab
Yeah.
to be able to rehab this year, kind
Yeah.
of this achiever side of me, so
Mhm.
that moving forward out of this year, I can have a healthier balance of creating without the need to perform and strive and hit all these goals.
Right.
Um,
Because the metrics in and of themselves, the data in and of themselves are not wrong or evil. Like the money that you earn, the profit, none of that is like a
no.
bad thing. It's not. It actually gives you really great insight into how to steward that better. I actually came across a post somebody was talking about the idea of building bigger barns so you can be more generous and how that's kind of a like a fake like their accusation was that it was a masking of pride, like, that it was really a
Mhm.
pride thing and that
Yeah.
it's and I responded and said, "I actually think that's just a call to be intentional with your stewardship, that if you've been given resources that you can invest and grow bigger to donate more, like, yes, you should be generous in the small just as much as you are in the large, but isn't that good stewardship?" Like, but once again, it all comes to the heart, right? Like, Jesus,
Yes.
when he's talking about the
Absolutely.
Sermon on the Mount, he's talking about the heart issues, right? Like, we have this, like, standard with the 10 commandments, but it really needs to go a step further. It's not like, "Here's the line, don't cross it." It's, "Here's the, like, starting line, go further." Like,
Right.
have a heart of generosity, have a posture of dependence on the Lord, have a posture of stewardship, understanding that the Lord is ultimately the one who's gonna bring about the harvest, and you are trusting him to provide, and not worrying or being anxious. Because, I mean, Jesus talks about that in the Sermon on the Mount, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, which is funny because a lot of people don't think about the Sabbath command in the Ten Commandments. Like, we kind of have, at least in our Western
Oh,
evangelical
yeah.
Christian
We
context,
pretend like it just doesn't
just doesn't
exist.
exist, right?
Right.
But he addresses it because he says, don't be anxious about what you'll eat or drink or what you'll wear. That goes back to that concept of Sabbath, where you're not going to be anxious about not working that one day. You're
Right.
not going to be anxious about, okay, if I don't get this work done today, like, how am I going to provide for my family, right?
Yeah.
And so it goes back to that whole uh, dependence on the Lord for, like, I show up, I do what I'm supposed to do, and then God does what he does, But
Exactly.
we have to do what we can do too. We still have to steward what's been given to us. And this is what you feel like you're supposed to steward this year. I feel like God is asking you to stop stewarding numbers and start stewarding a posture of dependence. And so he's asking you to stop looking at the numbers so that you can start looking to him.
I think there's a lot of layers to this, and I'm going to be slowly kind of peeling them off throughout the year. Um, and I find it interesting. It's definitely a hard issue. It definitely
Mhm.
is, which means it's different for every person. And
Mhm.
so there is no hard and fast rule of here's what you should do, here's what you shouldn't do, here's what Sabbath looks like.
You're
I
right.
mean, when I take a Sabbath year, it could be completely different what somebody else does for a Sabbath year.
Mhm.
And that's okay. And that's
Right.
good. You have to listen to what the Holy Spirit is speaking to you and follow whatever he puts before you. But I find it interesting at the end of the Exodus 23 passage, it says, it repeats again something from the earlier, 10 commandments, was that you shouldn't have any other gods before him.
Mhm.
And for me, the fact that that is in that passage is not a coincidence. I feel like me striving, me achieving, me accomplishing the goals, checking things off the list, I am saying, I did this. This was my accomplishment. It
Mhm.
is a pride thing. If I'm really honest, let's get really honest. It's a pride thing.
Mhm.
And I am putting my achievements, my ability, my capabilities ahead of God. I am saying that I can do it. You don't have to. I've got this. And that's not healthy. That's not a healthy place to be. And that's not a healthy
Right.
place to create from. So part
Mhm.
of being a good steward of the future messages that he has for me to share is to put this down. I
Mhm.
can't move forward until this is resolved.
Right.
Um, Not that it will ever be fully resolved, but we got to make some progress here. So it doesn't feel like God has given me a special mission, like
Yeah.
is in the Secret Service or something. I feel like I'm in timeout. So- but
You feel like you're in timeout. That's
in
funny.
the best loving kind of way,
Mhm.
it
You're being
is.
disciplined.
Yes, I'm being disciplined, and it's a good thing, and it's gonna be a long year, and the fact that he has set aside a year to do it in has me a little worried because that's a long time, but
Yeah.
obviously I need it. So, I have no idea what this year is gonna look like.
So what are you the most, like, nervous about with this year of just, like, setting these things down? So hold on, let's recap.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
putting your books at cost.
yeah.
You're not checking any numbers.
Not checking
Um,
numbers.
you're
I've
not do
stopped the podcast. The podcast is done. The episodes will continue running through the end of February because they were pre-scheduled.
right.
But my work with it is done. Um, see what else?
You're not releasing any new books this year.
No, I had 2 set to release this year. They're both gonna back up to 2025. So January 2025, the next book in the Goldfellow Gardener series will come out, and then we'll, keep rolling on the same schedule from there. Even that. So as things are going, God is changing things. I'll
Mhm.
have a plan, and he'll say, "No, that's not the way we're gonna do that. Put that down." Originally, I was still gonna release that book in May because my part with it is done. It's written, it's
Mhm.
edited, it's even formatted. All I'm waiting on is the illustrations from the illustrator. So I was like, I'll just
Okay.
get those from her. You plug them. You hit publish on Erin.
Right. There's not much
Right?
possible, right?
That's not work. It's fine. And I'll just, not make any money off of it when it comes out. I'll price it at cost and then it can still release. And God said, no, it can't. It can't still release. You will wait. So I am waiting. Um,
And I wonder if that's like, I mean, obviously, I can't say for sure why God is asking you to do that. But like,
yeah.
I could see just knowing what it takes to launch a book and get
Yeah.
and steward it well. Like, because
Yeah.
that goes back to that same principle. Like, just releasing a book onto, like putting it for sale and not doing anything to actually tell people about it or that's not stewarding
Right.
selling it, right?
Right.
So to just put it up there isn't good stewardship. And so, I mean, like I said, I can't say for sure that's why God asked you to do that, but I could see why that would
Yeah.
be a good thing to not do right now.
Yeah. And I'll get real honest with you. We're gonna be real honest on this
Okay.
podcast.
Yeah,
Scrolling
let's go there. Let's go there.
and back. We'll go all the places.
Yeah.
So I was gonna put all the ebooks for free, and I was still working on getting those formatted because a lot of them were in Kindle Direct. And so part of their like program is a 3-month thing that you sign up for. So I have to wait for that 3-month period to be up before they're released and I can offer them other places. So some of those won't be up until like February and things like that. But um I was going to put them all the ebooks for free so you can, read the ebooks of all my post publishing things for free through BookFunnel. And I was like, yeah, I'll use BookFunnel. And there's this handy thing on BookFunnel where when they get your ebook, even though it's free, you get their email address, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for authors, that's
It's
like
a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. The email list is a huge deal. Let's just put it out there and be honest.
Yep.
And so I thought, with all my books being free this year, even though I'm doing nothing to try to promote or grow my email list, it might really grow this year. And that would be awesome, right? I had still this secret little thing in me. Well, there's a button you can uncheck. And the button you can uncheck is the one that requires them to put in their email address. And so God was like, you can put it for free, but it's got to be all the way free. Like no compensation.
Because
not even an email address, Erin.
That
Do you hear me?
Because an email address is a potential, it's compensation in a different way. It's instead of paying you with their dollars, they're paying you with their email address.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm saying on the outside, yes, God, this sounds like a great idea. And on the inside, I'm going, and I can still get an email address. Like, stop it. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Back to the word stop. So I will be unchecking the box that requires the email addresses. And then there is another project that I was working on at the end of the year. So before I knew about this whole Sabbath year thing, and part of that is like, oh, I've got these things scheduled. I've got people I'm working with. So not everything.
And that goes to that whole thing about like being true to your word and not like default. Because like that is, Scripture is really clear about that. Like you're supposed to let your yes be yes and like
absolutely
not flake out on people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I had a project that's going to be in February. You're part of it. It's called the 28-day challenge. And so it is daily devotional videos to try to get women in the word every day for a whole month. I'm really excited about it. But it was going to be a big, like it's free to sign up for, but it's a big email boost, right? I mean, I was hoping for a lot from this project because it's a lot of work editing all the videos and putting it all together. It's a lot of work. And so I was like, okay, God, this is already scheduled. Like, I have to just let this go. I'm working with 28 other authors on this. I'm not going to flake out. And he's like, okay, cool. But you're not going to keep the email list. Okay.
Oh, man. I feel like right now, my heart just kind of went, I don't know, my heart, everything, like my kind of like it lost a little bit of breath there. I was like, oh my gosh.
I know, like non-authors are like, okay, so this is how you get paid, right? This is how You grow your audience.
I didn't know
This
you were
is
not doing that. Okay.
why we do the work.
Yeah.
But is it supposed to be why we do the work? And that's when God said,
Yeah.
why are you doing this? Okay, well, the reason at the beginning that I said in my out loud voice was so that women can be in the Word every day for 28 days, for a whole month, right?
Mhm.
If that is why I'm doing this, then would I still do it with no email list?
Yeah.
And the answer should be yes. It should be yes, yes, yes. And if the answer is not yes, then I should not be doing this.
Mm.
And I'll tell you, I argued with for so long. That's agreeing with you, but I'm like, yes,
I'm just
but
wrestling with that concept.
yes,
It's like,
yes.
okay, so if we're going, is
Are we
that just
going there?
this year, or is that like going forward? Is that the posture you should be taking?
Right. I don't know.
Where is that line between this is our job? Like, this is the
Yeah.
job that we're doing. It's like you said, it's work. It's a lot of
Yes. A
work.
lot of
And
work,
there's
so many
financial
hours.
investment that goes into it. The
Yeah.
tools you're using, people don't even really understand the sheer amount of things that you have to
Yeah. The cost
utilize.
behind the scenes.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
utilize to even make the content that just easily gets consumed. I think
Yeah.
about this person I follow on Instagram. Her and her husband make these really funny videos, and I love watching them. And the other day I was just thinking about how much time and energy and effort they have to put into that, and what the financial cost probably is for them. Now she does have like sponsorships and brand deals, and I'm like, well, good for her, because I know
Yeah. How much work? How
that
much work that is.
video it really is. That's a
Yeah.
lot that's going into it, and so yeah, there's this fine line between we're doing this because it's a ministry, and we're doing this because we want to serve our neighbor and love our neighbor well. Um, we're doing this because we want to share God's message that He's given us, but it is our job, and
Yeah.
we are receiving compensation for it in different ways. And I think that's okay for us to do. So I guess maybe it just kind of goes back to that heart issue you're talking about. Like, would I
Yeah.
still be willing to do this if I didn't receive compensation?
Right.
I guess maybe the next question you would ask yourself is, okay, if I'm not willing to do this without compensation, is this the right thing for me to be putting my time towards?
Right.
Because it kind of is the next step. Like, I'm going to steward this well, my time and my finances and my creative resources. So if I'm putting all of that time and energy into something, it better be something that I truly believe in, well, that even if I don't make any money from it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's I have so much of the year I can devote to things like that. And maybe part of the year needs to be things that I'm not talking about this particular year for you, but just I'm talking about in general. Because I know this is a question that I struggle with as a creative. I know many other people struggle with, like, balancing that ministry business side of what we do as Christian creatives, um, creating this art with a message to serve somebody, but also needing to be able to fund all the costs that you don't see, you know,
Yeah.
and make a profit from it. Because the money, I mean, the time that we are investing into these things is taking away time from other things. And I guess maybe that's where your question about would I be willing to do this, even if really comes into play, because you are sacrificing something else in order to put time towards this. And so maybe that compensation, maybe that's all you need from that in that moment. Maybe that's what God's telling you. Yes, steward this in order to receive compensation. But maybe
Yeah.
there's times where He's saying, steward this just because I told you to steward it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Mm.
so is there anything that you're particularly nervous about with this year?
Um, so I heard from my agent yesterday. I was just gonna ask you about that. I like I want to go there with you. Everyone I know doesn't know about this year, but I haven't told her. If she knows, she found out somewhere else. Um, yeah. So yesterday, now the proposal we had been working on throughout since August, well, really since July. And so it was finally yesterday, she gave me the green light. Okay, the proposal's ready. I'm going to start sending it out to publishers. So that's not my job, that's her job. My job was the proposal, and it is done. Um, I don't know what will happen
Yeah.
if something happens. I'm kind of hoping nothing happens, at least until January of 2020. Um,
It's so
and
funny. You're probably like the only author out there right now. You go, my proposal doesn't get picked up.
well, at the rate that the traditional publishing
True.
publishing just thing moves, I'm not too worried, but I am a little worried. I'm a little worried, and
Because the next like I was gonna ask you about
what's the
this,
next
like
question? Yeah, then what? I don't
because
know.
well, one, like what do you do if somebody offers you a book deal and says, all right, this is your deadline, and that's going into something new that's gonna
Right,
make you a profit, right? There's
right.
probably gonna be
Yeah,
advance, there's
yep,
potential royalties.
yep.
But more so than that, I was just curious as we were talking, your agent, I'm sure, is probably not super happy to hear you say that you're not gonna work on your email list
Right. Like I said, we
or
had
your
a
platform.
conversation.
Yeah.
Um, so all the numbers on the proposal are like up through December.
Mhm.
Um, and they're looking good.
I was gonna say, 'cause people who don't understand a
Oh
book
yeah,
proposal, part of what you do when you present a proposal to a traditional publisher is you have to outline what your platform looks like. And platform can be anything from social media to different network groups that you're a part of, different podcast downloads, email lists. What else is on your platform normally? Speaking
so
engagements, things
much.
like that. Like there's so many different ways you can go about putting your platform out there. And so, but they want to see numbers and they want to see projected growth of numbers.
Right. Yeah.
And so they want to see where your numbers have been, where they're going, all of that. And
Yeah.
so I was kind of wondering about a few minutes ago
Yeah.
if you've
Yeah.
had this conversation with her
I
because,
haven't. No.
okay. And do you intend to?
I, d- I don't know. I'm kind of waiting until we need to. I don't know if that's the right path to take or not.
Oh,
But
something to pray through.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
That's
We're gonna
hard.
get
That's
there.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, how can you not? And I guess it just kind of goes to the fact of like, this is what I'm doing this year because
This
I
is
feel
what I'm
like
doing this
God
year.
asked me to do it.
And
And
here's
so
the
if that
thing.
works with, and they've got a publishing model, and if it works with them, it works. If not, like, I guess,
Yeah. And I don't work for her.
no, you don't.
I work for God.
Mm-hmm.
And my boss tells me that I'm not growing my platform this year.
Yeah.
Now, is he able to handle that for me? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it needs to grow, it's going to grow. That's
Yeah.
fine. Um,
But you're not
and
expecting it to.
I'm not expecting it to. No, I
See, I
was
think that
when
I
I
want to,
started this, but
yeah.
I'm not now.
And
I'm not now.
I'm very proud of you, Erin.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that I want to kind of like harp on that point because I've heard a lot of people lately, their response to, I'm feeling burnt out about platform growth. I don't want to do the platform growth. It seems ridiculous that publishers want this platform growth. But their response to it is to just be like, well, if God wants to, I'm just going to not do anything. And if God wants to grow my platform, he'll grow my platform. And it's
Right.
not really about their heart behind it like it is for you. It's more of just being apathetic and wanting to give up. And so they just kind of pull out the God card and just be like, well, if God wants it to happen, he'll make it happen. And I think that's a good posture to take if it's genuine.
Right.
It's a genuine, I'm stewarding what I can and God will fill in the rest rather
Yeah.
than just I'm giving up and if God wants to make it happen, he'll move mountains.
Yeah.
There's just a different posture to take there. But what I'm hearing from you is not that apathetic, like, I'm just giving up. It's more of just like a realism. Like, if I don't put something into the social media, into the platform, podcasting, whatever circuit, I'm probably not going to reap anything from it because I'm not
Right.
sowing anything into it. It's just
Yeah.
basic.
That's how it
Now,
works.
you're not limiting God and saying he can't work, but you're also saying if he does, then that's his choice.
Right.
I'm stewarding the stopping and the posture of dependence on him. I'm not stewarding numbers, but not because I want to give up, but because I need to just stop because it's
Yeah.
a heart issue, it's a pride issue.
Yeah.
And so,
And here's the thing, none of this is a surprise to God.
mhm,
He knew about the Sabbath year way, way, way before I did. And I find it interesting. In one of the passages, it says that God is going to give you 3 times the harvest the year before the Sabbath year
yeah.
so that you're provided for. I did not know last year that this was going to be a Sabbath year. I didn't know until the beginning of December.
Mhm,
Um, and he did.
right.
He did provide more than 3 times. My like you're saying, a lot of people, like, give up because they're tired of trying to roll this, big stone up the mountain or whatever,
It totally
but
feels
it's
like that
it
sometimes.
keeps rolling back down on top of me. But
Crushing you on the way back.
yes, every time, every time. That's not what's happening here because what's actually happening is I am throwing on the brakes with a speeding train. I mean, last year was a really good year. My
Mhm.
email list grew by 750%. That's 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 more
Astounding. Yeah.
that's more than enough.
Yeah.
It's that's that 3 years worth of harvest in 1
Right.
year, right? Um, God knew when an
Mhm.
agent was gonna sign with me. That was not my plan for last year, you know that.
Yep.
We talked before at the conference, we talked after that.
Yes.
Signing with an agent was not the plan and a complete surprise. Um, God knew that
Mhm.
10 days into this year, the agent would then be ready to pitch my proposal to publishers.
Yeah.
This isn't a surprise to him. Um, and honestly, if there's a problem with the publisher for some reason because of this circumstance, then that means it wasn't the deal that was supposed to go through.
Mhm.
And I need to be able to rest in that and
So
trust
true.
that he's going to provide the same way that he's provided before. And his his call to me to take a Sabbath year this year is not going to stand in between his will for me.
Mm,
It's going to facilitate it. And so if it is standing in between me and something, then that something is not where I'm supposed to be.
that's so
And that's
true.
a lot easier to say right now than it is maybe to say later when I'm actually possibly in that scenario. But for now, I'm going to say it so that later I'll believe it. I'll probably write it down. So I can like,
No, that was really good what you just said, and so, yeah, definitely write it down because you're
yeah.
gonna it just well, I mean, God tells, he tells the Israelites so often, and I think he tells us a little bit too, to remember
Yes.
who he is and what he's done because it's so easy for us to forget. I mean,
Yeah.
now look at the Israelites. They brought out of Egypt, they go through the Red Sea, and they're, like, barely past that, and they're worshiping a golden calf.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't take very long for us to get sucked into our own need, like, our own sense of survival or our own
Yeah.
sense of, like, providing for ourselves, and I think it's really interesting because I was looking at Genesis chapter 1 and 2 layered on the 10 commandments and then layered on to the Sermon on the Mount.
Mhm.
And what I noticed there was in, the command to like, the first 2 commands are, "Have no other gods before me," and then, "Make no carven image," right? And there's specific wording there about, not making carven images of, like, birds, of things in the sea. So things in the sky, say things in the sea, animals, and creeping things, which I thought was funny that there's a distinction between just, like, animals and creeping things, but I guess reptiles. Um, but when you go to chapter 1 of Genesis, you can actually see God saying, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and give him dominion over the things in the sky, the things under the sea, the animals, and the creeping things." And you're like, "Whoa, whoa, what?" Like, this is getting mentioned again in Exodus with the commands, the first 2 commands, and it struck me how we have been created in God's likeness to essentially be his image bearers, right? Like, we're his I know this sounds really weird, but, like, his idol, right? Like, his, like, reflection, the thing that is his representation here on earth, and we're supposed to have dominion over these things. We're just supposed to like, steward creation, and it struck me that we're not supposed to have these things that we're supposed to be stewarding be our gods, because we're supposed to have stewardship of them so that we reflect God's image as creator, right? So like there's this tension, I think, where we always want to put the things that we're stewarding over us. Like we always want to make these things that we steward into our gods, into our idols. And God's like, no, 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 no. You're supposed to steward those things. You're supposed to have dominion over them because you're made in my likeness. You're made
Yeah.
in my image. And I think that was the first time that it really like stood out to me that way.
I
That
love that. Oh my
that
gosh. You have to write the books. The books don't write you. Yeah.
yeah, you steward the message he's given you. The message he's given you doesn't steward you. Like you're
Yeah.
not a slave to that message. You're not a slave to that product. You're not a slave to that thing that you've created. You're supposed to have dominion of it so that you can reflect his goodness and his love and his mercy and his
Mm.
compassion. So, I'm excited to see where God takes you this year. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like, in practicality.
Yeah. So far, it's been humbling, very humbling.
Yeah, and so I wonder at what point you're gonna be like, "Okay, I'm a little bit bored now."
I know. I get bored really easily.
I
I've
do
already
too.
had a book idea and had to like set that down. Okay. The achiever in me wants to do a lot of things, but we'll see. I think
Yeah.
I'm going to learn a lot of things.
So are
Mm.
you, like, not writing at all? Are you, like, doing nothing? Or are
So
you,
I
like,
am
just
writing.
stopping that creating things to make a profit or, like,
Yeah.
stewarding the things to make a profit or whatever?
Right. Yes. So usually when I start a writing project, I immediately think, because this is how we're trained to think as writers, okay, what trim size, what audience, what, paperback, hardback, what's going to
Yeah.
be the price point, how will I market this? I mean, it
Yeah.
always goes backwards,
Yeah.
from the
Which makes
idea.
sense because you have to have the big picture in order to write, work the little details,
Yeah,
but
because you're
still.
creating a product. So it
Mhm.
immediately from the idea on set, you're thinking, can I market this? Is it marketable?
Mhm.
So I am writing things that are probably not marketable, that are not that I don't have any plan to promote them in any way, to do anything with them. Um, I've been collecting some of my grandfather's memoirs and stories and writing those down,
Oh,
which
fun.
obviously those are going to be nothing for anyone but us.
Mhm.
Um,
But you wouldn't
and
have time to do that project otherwise.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
He's 96. I mean, we don't have a lot of time here to get these stories. So, I'm just enjoying that time, getting to spend it with him and hear his stories and write them. And I've been journaling a lot. So that's the other thing. Usually I journal like on my laptop.
Mhm.
And now I'm doing it by hand because I don't want to see how many pages I've written, how many words I wrote.
Wow, you're, like, really
I'm,
going
I'm really trying to. I feel
so so let's just go there for a second.
yeah.
To the person who would say, "Okay, you're starting to be a little legalistic about this," what would you say?
Mm. I know what I need. I,
Mm.
I know what I need. I need cold turkey. I mean, I really do. And the fact that that feels like an accomplishment is a problem, right? The fact that
Mhm.
I'm like, I wrote and I don't know how many words it was.
Good.
I see plenty of days where I write and I don't know how many words it is. It shouldn't be about meeting a
Yeah,
quota, right? It should
yeah,
be, I wrote what was on my heart. It is out now. I can move forward.
yeah.
I feel like that's when you're in your best writing flow, right? That's when the
Yes.
best writing happens. That's when the best stories come out. That's when the projects that are closest to the heart, they're happening when you aren't having to stop to check the word count.
Yeah.
And so
I do
that's
find, like,
yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, there's gotta be a way to go in and out of that flow," right?
Mhm.
Because you do need to have an idea of, like, product viability, right? You do have to kinda think of the end goal, unless you just are making something without any intent to publish it, right?
Right.
But if your intent is to sell copies of this book and get it to people, then you have to think market viability, and you have to think, "How do I, um, create this product in a way that is serving the reader well and something that they're gonna wanna trade their hard earned money for?" And, I want to make sure that I'm giving them a quality product. So if I'm gonna do that, then I need to know X, Y, and Z. But I have to be able to take X, Y, and Z and then set it aside and then enter into that creative space where this is just like on the back burner, kind of influencing, but not overtaking it. And so it's a really hard thing to do as a creative to think businessy, think creatively, and then come out of that and think businessy again. And the whole thing I feel is creative, but it's definitely got its bits and pieces to it. And so it is hard to do.
Yeah. And maybe that's our transition right there because I'm excited that we're doing this together because your year is going to look very different.
Yes.
And so that brings us back to that question you just asked of maybe there is a way to come in and out of this creative flow where, like, how do we marry these two things? Like for me, in a year, I'm going to come out of this, re-enter the world. And I'm about to say
At
that.
some point, this thing is going to end.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I'm going to have to figure out how to balance what does it look like to still create from a
Right.
place of rest, but that also is a viable career that
Mhm.
includes making money and gaining, platform numbers and growing an audience and all of that. So that's more of what your year is going to look like. And I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, tell us about your year.